good. There's air conditioning in here. Very good. It's air conditioned. Beautiful June day. Hi, everybody. Hi. Fox. Those folks at Fox. Busy with TV, probably. All right, great. Nice to see you guys. Again, I take it Tommy took good care of you last week. You will have Tommy again a week from today when I'm with the secretary traveling. So be prepared. You've got a week to prepare, but of course I'll also see you again on Thursday. We do have some announcements here. First of all, over the last few days, Americans have witnessed scenes of lawlessness as radicals in Los Angeles riot to protect criminal illegal aliens. Agitators have attacked law enforcement and shut down freeways. We remain undeterred in our commitment to enforce our laws and secure the border. During recent days, the administration has taken illegal alien gang members, child predators, rapists, and burglars off the streets. Thanks to the historic action across all of government under President Trump, the border is more secure than it ever has been, with illegal border crossings at a historic low. The border crisis that unfolded under the previous administration, however, did untold damage. The Big Beautiful Bill, as an example, before Congress will build on President Trump's progress, ensuring we have the resources to enforce our laws and secure our border. To that end, the United States is committed to disrupting the illicit manufacture and trafficking of fentanyl, a leading cause of death of people aged 18 to 49 in the United States. Yesterday, the United States announced that it is sanctioning La Chapitos, a powerful faction of the Mexico-based Sinaloa cartel, along with its two fugitive leaders. The United States is also designating a regional network of Los Chapitos associates and businesses based in Mazatlan, Mexico. This network engages in drug trafficking, extortion, kidnapping, and money laundering. Under Secretary Marco Rubio, the State Department will continue to protect our nation by keeping illicit drugs off our streets and disrupting the revenue streams funding Mexico-based cartels' violent and criminal activity. In addition, Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau will travel to Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala from June 10th to the 13th. As detailed in the trip announcement, quote, in each country, Deputy Secretary Landau will participate in a high-level bilateral engagements to further strengthen diplomatic ties and cooperation. He will engage in discussions to drive the private sector-led economic growth, boost U.S. commercial investments in our region, and highlight the importance of ending illegal immigration. In addition, there are additional announcements today, of course. The United States sanctioned 5 individuals and 5 sham charities for financially supporting Hamas under the guise of humanitarian work. Additionally, we are targeting a fraudulent charity linked to the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP. The United States will use all available tools to prevent abuse of the nonprofit sector for the benefit of terrorist groups like Hamas and the PFLP. We are committed to ensuring humanitarian aid can in fact be delivered by reliable and safe organizations. Finally, cultural diplomacy remains an important endeavor of the Trump administration. The Kennedy Center exemplifies this commitment, and its gala is tomorrow night, led by the musical Les Miserables. The center will have a season that will have Broadway, ballet, opera, and even Dolly Parton, in addition to a lot of other great things for kids as well. In this world of ours, it sounds very nice and very appropriate. And now to your question. Sounds like Matt Lee is amused. I hope you might be some coughing. I know you weren't laughing, and you might. It would be good to become perhaps a season ticket holder to the Kennedy Center. I'm just saying, but go ahead.
I would be happy to be a season ticket holder to the Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I would love to see Les Mis because I never saw it.
There you go.
But anyway, listen, just on your copper, and then I want to go shoot really quickly to the Middle East, just on the top. The State Department doesn't have any role in what's going on in L.A. in terms of quelling the violence. Is that correct?
Well, as I would view it, and I think that we all know that many of the aspects regarding illegal immigration, certainly on the issue of visas, the controlling of the border, the designating of foreign terrorist organizations, is one part of a whole of government effort to keep the country safe, to keep Americans safe. Don't push me off here. I'm answering your question. And so when we see the dynamic of what's happening in Los Angeles, it is, I think, quite appropriate for Americans to see this, and it is. The nature of what we are working to do together through the Trump administration to secure this country and to secure our streets. And that means, yes, removing criminal, illegal aliens and getting them back to their home countries, and certainly at least getting them off American streets so that Americans can feel safer in their own homes and in their own communities. And so in the midst of that, when we talk about it, of course, it's the State Department, it's the DOJ, it's ICE, it's the Department of Homeland Security, it is the White House. It is a multitude of departments working together to envision and implement President Trump's vision.
Okay. Let me
yes, sir.
Go to the Middle East. So Ambassador Huckabee gave an interview earlier today, I think it was earlier today, maybe it was yesterday, but in which he called into question, or didn't call into question, they basically said that the administration is not particularly interested in seeking a two-state solution for the Israel-Palestinian conflict. And I want to know, I mean, he's been outspoken on this issue in the past before he became ambassador. But is he speaking on his own, or is this now administration policy that you're no longer so interested in that kind of a resolution?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to characterize the ambassador's remarks. I'm not going to explain them or really comment on them at all. I think he certainly speaks for himself. At the same time, of course, ambassadors are there and they're working with their host country. But when it comes to American policy and certainly where the president stands, I'd suggest you call the White House.
Okay.
All right. Yes, Andrea Mitchell.
Hi, thank you, Tammy. Let me ask you about part of the potential enforcement of the administration's policies to deter illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. There is reporting of a potential plan to send undocumented immigrants or others who have been detained to Guantanamo, perhaps as soon as tomorrow, while there is a court case pending to rule out Guantanamo as a place to send people, saying that it is not necessary, it is too expensive, and that the conditions are intolerable. But that this would include Europeans from allied countries countries that would willingly accept deportations of their illegal immigrants here. So what is the State Department's position on whether European illegal immigrants, migrants, who have been detained should be sent to Guantanamo rather than to their host countries, including countries that would very willingly accept them? Do you think that this would damage relationships with our allies?
Well, first of all, I can tell you that this entire dynamic, it's managed by DHS, first of all. It's certainly not a dynamic managed by the State Department. I can also say that, of course, it's not new that we are moving criminal illegal aliens to Guantanamo prior. It's not the final destination. It's prior to their being sent to their home country. But when it comes to each country, I'm not going to speak to that. But I would suggest that...
I have a follow-up.
Well, I won't speak to any country when it comes to the illegal aliens, the criminal aliens that may or may not be sent to Guantanamo Bay. That clearly sits within a diplomatic framework. You're asking me to speak on what the Secretary or others might be discussing with their foreign counterparts, and I'm certainly not going to do that. I'm not going to speculate, and nor will I guess or speculate on the nature of any kind of backlash or the impact on the State Department. What I can tell you is that the backlash would be as if we weren't doing our job. State Department and the Secretary has been very specific about our role, which is the vetting of people who are coming here in the first place, removing illegal aliens who are here, criminal illegal aliens, whether they've overstayed their visa or here illegally entirely. We're very focused on the nature of what the State Department has as its charge. And this is a framework, again, that's, as I just mentioned to Matt, where you've got a whole-of-government framework. The DHS is in charge of this particular aspect.
But if the DHS literally would be in charge, but does the State Department have a view about what the diplomatic impact would be on our allies?
Again, Andrea, you know I'm not here to speak about the diplomatic opinion or the speculation of the nature of the feelings of things. I'm here to talk about the specifics. You're right. You know, the United States has increased enforcement of immigration laws and removal of illegal aliens. They are being removed because they didn't have a legal basis to be in the United States. These are the why, you know, the visa dynamics, the nature of that we have the right, like every country does, to control who comes in and to have an interest in who stays. And that's what this is about.
Sending people to Guantanamo might have a salutary deterrent impact. Would that help the whole of government approach which you are describing?
What I can say is that this is a very specific mission to make American streets safer. And this is why President Trump was elected, to do exactly this. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just going back to Matt's question on Huckabee's comments, I know you said that the ambassador speaks for himself, but he was appointed by the president, and he does represent the U.S. government in Israel. So is a two-state solution a goal of the U.S. State Department currently?
You know, I'm not going to speak, again, what I said to Matt, and what I'll keep saying is I'm not going to parse the ambassador's remarks. That's not what I'm going to do here, and I'm also not going to speak about the nature of what people say that he was claiming or not claiming. I'm not going to have a speculative conversation about that right now. I would suggest that when it comes to the policy of the United States, that sits with President Donald Trump. And he's just he's like a 15-minute walk away from this building. Call them, and in fact, I think they would have an answer for you, I would think.
Okay, and then of course, the president sets the policy, but Secretary of State is in charge of foreign policy. So irrelevant of
yes,
what
I'm not,
ambassador.
Yes, I'm not going to begin a conversation speculating based on a statement Ambassador Huckabee may or may not have made. I would suggest when we think about the policy, yes, Secretary Rubio implements President Trump's vision for foreign policy. In speaking on that issue, with everything going on in this world, we are focused clearly on the nature of the things that are in front of us. And I would just suggest calling the White House to make a determination of the Trump policy, the Trump administration's approach in this regard. So Secretary Rubio doesn't make foreign policy. It's his vision and implementation of President Trump's point of view and President Trump's vision. And so that's what Secretary Rubio does, and obviously does it very well. Yes, sir.
What's the vision that he's implementing here, Tammy?
I'm not going to begin to speculate or go into this. I'm just not going to go here. Ladies, if you want to speak about the National Security Advisor, also call the White House. Yes, sir.
Just to follow up on that issue.
Sure. And this will go ahead.
Sure, but what we have heard from the president is he wants the United States to take over Gaza, which is obviously one of the occupied Palestinian territories and would be part of a future two-state solution. So is that? I mean, you haven't mentioned that, but should we assume that is part of the policy, and therefore that opens the question of what about the West Bank and East Jerusalem? And is that, I mean, Ambassador Huckabee seems to be suggesting there wouldn't be a future Palestinian state in those remaining areas. So we kind of know half of the answer to the question, in that you've said it's President Trump's view and decision, and he's stated that, although you haven't restated it here about Gaza. So it's just if we could clarify what.
Well, there's a focus on Gaza, and for a very good reason. And that's what we're focused on, is the ceasefire, is stopping the carnage, dealing with what's going on in Gaza, after, of course, the horrific events of October 7th, the nature of what's happening with Iran and its death squads of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis. It's a full plate. And what one does is you start at the beginning, and you move forward. We are still working on dealing with either certainly ceasefire and peace for Gaza, and then, of course, the aftermath of that, and rebuilding and dealing with what that means. At some point in time, that will hopefully be the major conversation here, right, is in the aftermath and the rebuilding and how that's happening. And I would expect that to be a conversation that we'll all be engaging in.
But is it still the policy that the U.S. should take control of that territory.
You know,
during that process?
I can't, I don't, look, what I've heard President Trump say and what I know the Secretary has always said is that Hamas can't exist, that we've got to get a ceasefire, that we've got to have new ideas for making sure this doesn't happen again and again and again. I know that the President has called for new ideas to help make that happen. I know that he has had some new ideas in how to do that. We know the region has chimed in with what it believes it can do when it comes to aid and even rebuilding. But the fact of the matter is right now, Hamas won't even let the hostages go. Hamas still won't put its weapons down. Hamas is still playing games as people still die as we do work to get food and aid into that region. So we're still at that kind of dynamic, and we will get to the other part, I hope, as soon as we can. Nadia.
Thank you, Tammy. Just on the Middle East again, the Israeli Prime Minister said today there is significant progress in releasing the hostages and the ceasefire. Does the State Department share his view? And also I want to ask you about the 20 people who have been killed today around distribution center. Last briefing, I believe you said that the Israelis are investigating that. I'm just wondering how these people who have been killed daily now, not one day passes without people being killed around this food distribution center, how can they get their food safely?
Well, of course, that is exactly what we've all been working on, right, is getting food and aid safely in. We also know that the UN had a horrible dynamic where they had flour that they report was stolen by Hamas, and that the problems, and as I've said regularly, we all know it's a war zone. It's a war zone led by terrorists who don't care about humanity or the future. Regarding what's happening on the ground there, I would refer you to the IDF in Israel, which continues, of course, to investigate. And in the case of what's being led by the IDF in Israel there, I think that's where you'd need to go in that regard. And there was a third part. What was this?
Talking about the significant progress that Netanyahu is talking about today.
Yes. Well, again, I can't speak to what the Prime Minister has said.
Is he sharing anything with you, the State Department?
I can't speak to that at this point when it comes to what Netanyahu has said. Saeed, yes, and this will be the end for this particular stretch of questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very kindly.
Sure.
Just to follow up on the questions that were raised on the two-state solution and so on.
Sure.
Now, we know that President Trump in his first term came up with the deal of the century, which spoke almost in details about his vision. Let me ask you this. Now, there are 5.5 million Palestinians between Gaza and the West Bank. And I want to ask you, if there is no position of the State Department at this time, because the State Department has always...
What I said was I was not going to speak about the issue. I did not say there was no position, sir.
Okay. Right.
Be very careful, because I'm not going to have you put on the record something that is entirely not true. Okay. And I want you to proceed with that in mind.
Okay, I take it back. I wanted to ask you, what do you consider the Palestinians in the West Bank? I mean,
I will not provide to you, Mike, what I consider.
Are they under occupation?
We are not going to. I will not. Look, it was nice to be able to call on you, Saeed. I'd like to be able to have a question that I can answer, but you're asking me to speculate. Okay. I would say, I will just reiterate as we move on to another issue, is that President Trump is a man who understands and is working, really is committed these 5-6 months to being a peacemaker and to changing things that people have not been able to change for half a century. Right. And he is determined to do it. He cares about everybody. He cares about the people of Gaza. He cares about the Israelis. He cares about Jews. He cares about Christians. This is a man who genuinely is determined to make a difference as an individual. This is a very fluid situation. He wants solutions. He wants to make sure that people can live safely in the world. And we've seen him time and time again make different decisions, have consultations, talk to people nobody thinks he should talk to. He can change his mind. He's clearly transparent, speaking about what he's going through and thinking each day. So when we think about what the future will look like, it's allow us to do the work that we're doing right now, focusing on the ceasefire, getting aid into that region, and let the president, who's determined to deal with all of the issues in that region, come to the fore of what happens next, and we will learn that only from Donald Trump. All right, so is this other than the Middle East? Where else are we going? Well, no, this is going, ladies and gentlemen, no, I've said no, Saeed was it? Now, where are you coming from? Iran? All right, we'll do Iran, sure.
That's also the
Well, we're not, Gaza and otherwise. Let's move forward, please.
There was just confusion because the two-state solution has undergirded U.S. policy for the past several decades. But I understand that is a question to address to the White House.
Yes, it's for the White House. It's for the future. I will not be commenting from this podium today. And this is, again, we've got so much more on let's just move on, please. Iran?
The question on Iran is there's been conflicting messages about whether and where and when a sixth round of talks with Iran may take place. Is there clarity on that from the U.S. perspective?
I don't know if you would consider it clarity, but I can say a few things. The president, I think, he noted that something would be happening soon, this week. I think that what I can just reiterate here is that we would hope and expect that there would be new additional talks, and that, in fact, they would be soon. But beyond that, I have nothing to preview. But in similar situations, when we believe that it would be soon, it, in fact, ended up being soon.
Right. The Iranians have concretely said Sunday in Oman. So if that is not the U.S. understanding, then...
I can't comment on that. Again, the president mentioned a different day. I think that there are individuals involved, obviously, who are working on this, and there will be a final determination, and we will hear about it when that determination is made.
Okay. In that context, just very quickly.
One more follow-up, and then we'll go on.
Thank you. Well, just because the president also had mentioned that this Thursday, this week, would be the sort of 2-month deadline for reaching a deal with Iran or not, when is it determined that those talks are a failure and, you don't progress to future rounds?
The president makes that determination and the people involved. As I've mentioned before, if you think that think about the deadlines, or even as the secretary has said on another situation, that it would be a matter of weeks. The funny thing about negotiations and discussions is that things happen and that there are conversations. And progress is sometimes made, not tremendous progress, but enough to keep going. So it is not, it is a dynamic as it would be with any diplomatic consideration, that negotiations are meant to move things forward. And the good news is that, in fact, it would appear that things are moving forward, and that's what we all want. All right. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tammy. Moving to Ukraine, if I may.
All right. Now, let's one more. Now we're thinking of Lebanon and the other elements of the Middle East. Did you have something, sir? Yes, you.
Iran follow, actually.
All right. Iran follow-up. All right.
So President Trump also said something about Iran that was quite interesting yesterday during the roundtable. He said that Iran has been helping with the ceasefire negotiations in Gaza. Are you able to shed any light on that?
No, I can't. Refer you to the White House in that regard. All right. Lebanon, yes, sir, right there.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
Ukraine has been under massive drone attacks, particularly Kiev last night. Given that, Ukrainian president said publicly that they have been asking for permission from the U.S. To purchase air defense systems that they can mitigate Russian attacks. Why wouldn't the U.S. let them purchase air defenses, much needed air defense systems?
Well, I can't speak to the details of purchase decisions or negotiations about what we're going to allow to be purchased by an ally. That is the Department of Defense, effectively. What I do know is what the President has said and what the Secretary of State has said in a number of venues is that we certainly, and we've been Ukraine's biggest supporter and defender, literally, is that we want them to have surface-to-air missile protections, right? We want them to be able to deal with incoming missiles. We know that it's been discussed about our European partners who have those systems from us to get them to Ukraine. There's a number of different negotiations and aspects involved in this kind of dynamic that does not involve the State Department. It's about munitions and purchasing and all of that. What I do know is that we are doing and continue to wish to do as much as we can. That is not disputed. And I understand the Ukrainians, who are great friends of this country and have done, there's no disputing the bravery and the commitment of the Ukrainian people. If that was ever in doubt or questionable, this war and how they've defended their nation has dispelled any of that. I had the pleasure of being in a bilat with a Ukrainian delegation recently here, and they are astounding people, and they're remarkable, and they are committed to getting their country safe and this war to end. And so are we. The United States has proven that. The details of which are many, and I can't speak to that, and I certainly would dispute that we are not letting Ukraine do something. The opposite has always been the case. Our goal is to make sure that this war comes to an end, and we've continued to focus on that.
And Tammy, on that line, I would appreciate if you help us clarify, reports that the United States has redirected some of the promised defensive weapons from Ukraine. Well, supposed to go to Ukraine, but they redirected to the Middle East. Is that accurate?
I can't speak to that. That is not something that, whether it is or is not happening, it's a decision that is clearly one based in national security if it's happening, and certainly a diplomatic framework that, if a decision has been made, is not something I'm going to remark on here at the podium. All right. That's going to be it. We're moving along here. I want to get as many people as I can in today. Yes, sir.
Last week, Pakistan's all-parliamentary delegation led by Bilawal Bhutto Jardari was here. Did he had any meeting in the State Department, and also has U.S. received any commitment or assurance from Pakistan that they will stop taking, they will take action against terrorists working from this?
Well, I can tell you that State Department officials, including Undersecretary for Political Affairs Alison Hooker, met with the Pakistani parliamentary delegation during a visit they had to Washington last week. She reiterated U.S. support for the ongoing ceasefire, as you might imagine, thank God, between India and Pakistan. They also discussed important issues to the bilateral relationship, including counterterrorism cooperation. So that meeting occurred. We also know that Deputy Secretary Landau met with the Indian parliamentary delegation last week, and he also reaffirmed the United States' strong support of India in the fight against terrorism and strategic partnership between those two countries.
Did you receive any assurance from Pakistan that they will take action against terrorists?
I am not going to discuss the details of those conversations. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Tammy. Do you have any updates on the temporary pause on scheduling new interviews for student visa applications? Is that still in effect?
I can tell you, of course, and that's a good question because there's so many other conversations about visa restrictions. I do believe that we are in the process, and I don't know if, Tommy, we might have to take this back, I know last week that we were in the process of indicating that it would be very soon and that people should start looking for those spaces to open up regarding appointments. Nothing has changed in our encouragement still of people to apply for those student visas. This was a matter of making sure that the process that we were expecting of consulates and embassies was proper when it came to what we expected them to be able to vet for. And that process, we were told, would be rapid. And I think at this point, what I can reassert here is that people should watch for those spaces to be open, should continue to apply. This is not going to be a lengthy or an ongoing dynamic. It was meant for a specific, almost an administrative adjustment. And I would hope perhaps we go back and get more on this, but I think that that's where it stands, and perhaps on Thursday I can get even something more specific for you on the record. And another reminder to the people watching at home, when I say we're going to take something back, it means that we're going to get an answer to that question for the reporter and get it right back to them as well. And so that'll also help us for the next briefing also. Afghanistan, yes, ma'am. Afghanistan. Afghanistan.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Let's keep this in order, please. Let's go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As you know, Afghanistan situation is still critical, but different people, different diplomats like Zal Khalil, the former ambassador in Iraq and Afghanistan, he has a positive idea. But unfortunately, yesterday there was a war started, and Taliban claimed that this is from the ISIS. Number one, do you think it's still ISIS is still active in Afghanistan? And my second question is still some Afghan who was SIV and P1 or P2 left behind in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran. Do you have any update for them to come to the United States, please?
Well, first, I can't speak right now on the internal dynamic of what's happening in any problem between people or claims about ISIS being active and violence that was ensuing. But let's take that back and see what that is. I do know that for the visa restrictions and Afghanistan, that there is, for the SIV visas, the proclamation that was used announcing this states that Afghan special immigrant visas are accepted. I'll say exempted from the suspension of entry to the United States. Consular processing of Afghan SIVs, including Afghan SIV interviews, continues at U.S. embassies and consulates around the world. All right. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Me?
Yes, you. Yes, sir, you. Yes, thank you. All right. If we're going to have disruptions, we're going to let's stop this if we could, Heather. Let's move, please. Let's get. We will remove you if you are not silent right now. So we are going to be respectful to your fellow journalists, and thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now we will go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. As you know, the Iraqi federal government has cut the budget and salary of the Kurdistan region. Have you addressed this issue with Baghdad? What is your position on the matter? And I have
yes, we're aware of this. We are aware of this, and we urge Baghdad and Erbil to resolve their issues through constructive dialogue consistent with their constitutional responsibilities. Resolving the salaries issue quickly sends a signal that Iraq is creating an environment in which U.S. companies would want to invest. Successful resolution would also send a positive signal on broader cooperation for the benefit of all Iraqis, such as reopening the Iraq-Turkey pipeline and additional energy exploration, including with U.S. companies. When speaking with senior Iraqi officials, such as Prime Minister Soudani, Secretary Rubio has emphasized the importance of stability and prosperity in Iraq and the region. He has done the same in recent meetings and conversations with KRG President Barzani and KRG Prime Minister Mansour Barzani. U.S. support for a strong and resilient Iraqi Kurdistan region remains a crucial element of our relationship with Iraq. All right. Yes, all right. Next, please. Let's get everyone in if we can here.
I'm only going to ask one to get everybody in. Sanctions question for you. The ICC sanctions that were announced last Thursday. 2 members of the pre-trial chamber that signed off on the arrest warrants for Prime Minister Netanyahu, Defense Minister Gallant, were sanctioned. But the presiding judge, the 3rd judge in the pre-trial chamber of France, was not sanctioned. What was the reasoning behind sanctioning only 2 of the 3 members and not the presiding judge of that chamber?
Yeah, again, that obviously was a internal diplomatic decision made very specifically about specific individuals, which I won't discuss.
So it was a diplomatic decision?
Well, it's what the decisions that go into the nature of when to do a sanction. Obviously, there's a combination of conversations involving national security, what's in the best interest of the United States, what's in the best interest of our diplomacy, certainly with our ally Israel, and our own national security and the messages that we send when it comes to expecting America to be treated with respect and to be treated with some modicon of decency when it comes to the international scene. I think that makes that clear, but in the sense of the details of that, of course, I can't comment on that here.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. Yes, sir, at the end here.
I have a question about foreign aid. Would you be able to share any update on the status of PEPFAR? I understand Secretary Rubio said last month in a hearing before the Senate that 85% of the program is operational. But now some activists and congressional Democrats are disputing that.
I do have something for you here, just for some clarity. Secretary Rubio referenced an estimated 85% of beneficiaries who could be receiving life-saving treatment and prevention of mother-to-child transmission services based on the full operational capacity of all the operational active awards. It's 85%. That is a correct number. That is as of March 24th, 2025. All right? Good. Oh, wait. Well, hold on.
This cable that went out today from Secretary Rubio instructing all chiefs of mission to abolish all USAID positions, local, direct, either direct U.S. hires or local employees. And
sure, that was not a surprise. It shouldn't surprise anyone. A cable is something sent out from the State Department, in this case, of course, to missions worldwide, instructing them to do something. Essentially, there's many more uses and reasons for cables, and sometimes, surprisingly, said no one ever, they get leaked. In this case, it was an order regarding positions regarding U.S. aid that they were to be ended. And that was something that was previewed in February when we relayed the roadmap, if you will, of the reorganization, the renovation, if you will, of U.S. aid, making sure that our aid efforts around the world met with what was important to the United States, to the America First agenda. So this was a cable telling our posts exactly what they were expecting to be told, which is that those positions were gone and were being eliminated. So it wasn't a surprise. It's nothing new. And it is exactly what we previewed in February and March of this year. All right. But we've talked to you. Yes. All right. Now in the back, young man right there. Yes. Young man without the tie. That would be you. Yes.
Just while we have questions on Israel, earlier today, 5 countries.
Can you tell me, by the way, what is your outlet? Just a curiosity. And your name?
Ryan Morgan with the Epoch Times.
All right. Hi, Ryan. Welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me. So I was just wondering if you have a quick comment about the 5 countries that sanctioned Israeli ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich today.
Yes, I do. I have something for you on that. And let me get that for you. There's just so much going on today. First of all, we find that extremely unhelpful. It will do nothing to get us closer to a ceasefire in Gaza. This, again, is about Allied sanctions against Israeli ministers. They should focus on, this being UK, Canada, Norway, and New Zealand, should focus on the real culprit, which is Hamas. Hamas put the people of Gaza in this situation by launching the horrific attacks of October 7th, which killed 6 British citizens and 46 Americans, and continue to hold hostages, of course, including the bodies of 4 Americans. We remain concerned about any step that would further isolate Israel from the international community. If our allies want to help, they should focus on supporting Special Envoy Witkoff's negotiations and backing the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation when it comes to food and aid. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, in the back? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tammy. My question is about Ukraine negotiations. Russians and Ukrainians came together in Istanbul last week and they announced a memorandum, and result of that, there was exchange of prisoners. What is your elaboration on that phase of the deal, and how do you follow these negotiations?
Well, the President and the Secretary have been saying for a while that the only real solution can come with the parties talking directly. And that is what we've been seeing here, at least, in this regard. We, of course, remain in close contact with both parties at the highest levels. And we welcomed the success, the movement of, again, more prisoner exchanges. In this case, of course, the seriously wounded and young prisoners under the age of 25, as well as repatriating fallen soldiers, which in that instance was about 6,000 each, horribly. We are not involved, right? We're not involved in that as the State Department. If that was your question, of the United States, this was negotiations, conversations between the 2 parties involved, and that's all I can tell you. Is that we welcome that progress in the meantime.
Are you in contact with the Turkish authorities in order to have them involved in some way to reach a deal between the 2 parties?
Well, I obviously won't speak on. We talk with all of our allies on a number of different reasons all the time, but I won't discuss what the details are of those conversations. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tammy. Question on Iraq. When do you expect Iran to get back to you about your proposal? And President spoke to Focus, and he said Iran is acting much differently in negotiation than it did just days ago. What's changed from Iran from recent days?
Well, I don't speak for Iran. And I think that what we will find is, as we've discussed, the expectation of further talks and those leading those talks and handling the situation. I would hope, as we all do, that we can finally have some answers and some agreement when it comes to the situation.
On Iraq, you said that you are encouraging both Erbil and Baghdad, the Kurdistan region of Iraq and Baghdad, to solve the issue over the budget. Are you engaging with them? There are reports that recently the U.S. charged the affairs to the Iraqi embassy in Baghdad. He met with the Iraqi prime minister and he put direct pressure on Iraqi prime minister to solve this issue. Now the Iraqi officials saying that we are getting heated from the Washington to solve this issue. Do you have any updates on that?
In my previous answer to this, it's clear, even from this podium, we're expressing what we expect to see. And they know what we think. And we've been saying it over and over again. It's not, I'm not going to speak on rumors or single reports or somebody talking about a chargé d'affaires or an ambassador and what they're talking about and who they're meeting. That's not going to happen here. But we here have made it very clear that this is a situation that has to stop. And we know that, of course, as I've noted, that resolving situations like this will entice more companies to get involved in the area, making everyone's lives in the region better. All right. Yes, sir, in the back. I was behind the man with no tie. Behind our friend with no tie. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I should not wear the tie then.
No, you have a tie on. That would be you, yes. No, you, sir.
Oh,
you,
thank
yes.
you so much. Thank you, Tammy.
Too many with no ties these days. All right. No offense to the no tie wearers.
Thank you so much, Tammy. So after the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, President Trump offered to mediate on the issue of Indian-held Kashmir. I was just wondering what kind of follow-up we are expecting, like how State Department move forward, like inviting the leadership of both the countries, or like going to support UN Security Council resolution on Kashmir?
Well, I obviously can't speak to what's on the mind or the plans of the president. What I do know is I think we all recognize that President Trump, in each step that he takes, it's made to solve generational differences between countries, generational war. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that he'd want to manage something like that. He seems very much to be, and not just seems, but he has been the only one to bring certain people to the table to have conversations that nobody thought was possible. So while I can't speak to his plans, the world knows his nature, and I can't speak to any details of what he might have in that regard. You could call the White House. I have a feeling they would have plenty to say, but it is an exciting time that if we can get to a point in that particular conflict, thank God, but also thank Secretary Rubio and President Trump and the Vice President. It's a very interesting time, and so it's every day we bring something new, and I hope perhaps something like that can also get resolved before the president.
Keeping Americans safe is a top priority of this administration. An American citizen group of Panu has wrote a letter to Secretary Blinken demanding to put sanctions on Indian agents involved in his assassination attempt. Did you get that letter? What is your opinion?
Well, if that's something I can't speak on, but let's take that back and we'll go on from there. All right, now I've already spoken to some of you with your hands up. Yes, sir. And the blue top, no, behind you, no, in the glasses, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
As you know very well, new South Korean President Lee Jae-myung is pursuing pragmatic foreign policy, which regards the alliance with the United States as the very foundation of his foreign policy. But pragmatic policy also signals an openness to stably manage relations with China. So do you have any comment on the new South Korean government's foreign policy stance?
Well, I don't. What I can tell you is that there was a call between the president and President Jae-myung Lee. We can confirm that that phone call, in fact, took place, and we refer you to the White House for those details. We congratulate the president on his election as the president of the Republic of Korea, and we're confident under his leadership that our alliance will continue to thrive. Again, for more, perhaps further comment, if you'd like to know what President Trump's view of that, I suggest you call the White House. All right, now in the back is going to be our last question here to you, sir.
Thank you.
And a nice white crisp shirt and a tie and glasses, and it's our sartorial remarks here today, apparently.
Thank you, Tammy, for giving me the opportunity to ask
yes, sir. And your outlet again, sir?
I work for France 24 and Asharq al-Awsat newspaper.
Very good. Welcome aboard.
My question is about Lebanon. There were reports yesterday that the U.S. is engaging Israel in some discussions about the fate of UNIFIL. Would you please shed some lights on what do you think regarding the situation of UNIFIL in southern Lebanon, and what do you expect from UNIFIL and from the Lebanese government? And also, I have a question whether you would confirm that Ambassador Tom Barak will visit Lebanon next week. Thank you.
All right. Well, for the first part of that, we'll have to take all of that back. I know that quite some time ago, we discussed this here at the podium, but as we also know, time changes things, and I want to make sure, I don't want to repeat to you the nature of what we were saying months ago. So let's go back and we'll get those answers there. Regarding Ambassador Barak, he is, of course, our ambassador to Turkey, and he's leading the way in our effort regarding Syria and giving them a chance to make a difference and to move into the future. I think we can get a good answer from the ambassador about his plans regarding any travel. I'll do my best for you in that regard. But he's a busy guy. We had him here last week. He spoke to many here. In general, off the record for like a meet and greet. But he's a man who clearly is making a huge difference. We expect more from him, and we'll get back to you with his travel plans in the end.
A quick follow-up
on
the fate of Miss Morgan Ortagus, because there are a lot of rumors.
Well,
in
that
Lebanon
means, boy, I can see myself
region.
answering this question.
Yeah, but
said no one ever.
But I know you answered without answering the question before.
Well, I will not answer without not answering. No, first of all, I will not speak about personnel dynamics. I'm certainly not going to address rumors surrounding those, any personnel dynamics here regarding anyone. And I'm going to leave it at that. All right. Thank you, everyone. Great job. I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you very much.